On the campaign trail now, Mitt Romney is on the attack, going after GOP rival Rick Santorum, accusing him of falsely claiming to be a fiscal conservative. Check out this new ad from Restore Our Future. That's the super PAC supporting Mitt Romney.
How did Rick Santorum actually vote? Santorum voted to raise the debt limit 5 times and for billions in wasteful projects, including the bridge to nowhere. In a single session, Santorum co-sponsored 51 bills to increase spending and 0 to cut spending.
Joining us live, Ford O'Connell, chairman of the Civic Forum PAC and a former director for rural outreach for Senator John McCain's presidential campaign. Also joining us, Alexis McGill Johnson, executive director with the American Values Institute. Good to have you both. Alexis, let me start with you. A lot of think tanks and political groups have studied Santorum's record. The Cato Institute, which is a libertarian think tank, we're putting this on the screen, said, quote, Santorum never met an earmark he didn't like. Taxpayers for Common Sense, which tracks the earmarks themselves, said Santorum secured at least $1 billion in earmarks. The Club for Growth described Santorum's fiscal record as mixed, while the American Conservative Union gave Santorum a lower conservative rating than Gingrich or Ron Paul based on their voting record. So, in truth, is Romney's attack on Santorum not only accurate, but fair?
Well, I mean, I certainly don't want to be in the position of being an apologist for Rick Santorum.
Oh, go ahead.
But I'm sure that he has probably been, given the fact that he was representing a very center-left state, I'm sure his fiscal conservative record needs to be put in that context. The larger issue here, though, is actually just...
Wait a minute. Are you saying he had to pander to the moderates and liberals in an industrial state?
Yeah, I'm pretty much that's exactly what I'm saying. And if
you should have said it that way.
Sorry, if you look at the National Taxpayer Union, I believe they actually graded him pretty fairly when you take that context in,
right.
Take that into context. But I actually think the larger issue here is his social record, and I think that the more that Santorum continues to talk, right. The more he is going to begin to alienate the general public.
Right. And we'll get to that in a moment. I just want to focus on the fiscal stuff because that's a big issue this election year. And Ford, I actually took a look at Santorum's voting record itself, and we'll put that up on the screen. Here it is. He voted against right to work. He voted for No Child Left Behind, Medicare Part D, raising the minimum wage, raising the debt ceiling, and, of course, numerous earmarks. In fact, not long ago, he said, I'm very proud of my earmarks. I'll defend earmarks. Does Santorum's true record belie his claim that he's a fiscal conservative?
No, because perfection is a myth in politics. Certainly there's some holes in Santorum's record, but this isn't about records. It's about Mitt Romney.
Those aren't pretty big holes I just identified?
They are holes, but they're still better than President Obama. And frankly, it's really about Mitt Romney because Mitt Romney has not given fiscal conservatives a reason to vote for him. So right now they're backing Santorum. How else could Santorum be, rising in the polls when his campaign doesn't have 2 pennies to rub together and he's running his campaign out of the back of a van? This is about Mitt Romney, Greg.
Well, all right. Nice hyperbole. Alexis, earmarks. I mean, the reason we're talking about earmarks, Alexis, is they're very important among conservative and Tea Party members. And to be fair here, Mitt Romney himself supported earmarks. Under his leadership as governor, he sought tens of millions in earmarks for transportation projects. In fact, that's verified by several congressmen, including, we'll put this up on the screen, Jim McGovern. Quote, the Romney administration was crystal clear on earmarks and what they wanted. They sent us a letter specifically asking for money to be earmarked for projects. So, Alexis, is Romney hypocritical on this subject?
I mean, I don't know where Romney is on anything, and I think that's part of the challenge of what Ford was saying of why so few of the GOP base really want him in. And I also think that, here you have this sense that Romney has the capability spending $2 million in Michigan and mostly negative ads, and anybody coming up against him is going to be, Superman one day and back to Clark Kent the next.
Right.
So I think that they're all over the place. I think the entire GOP field is all over the place,
Ford,
and it's going to be a huge issue.
What about electability, Ford? I mean, it's true that Santorum may lead now in many of the national polls, but if you look really closely, Republican voters still overwhelmingly view Mitt Romney as the candidate best equipped to defeat President Obama. That's according to the latest New York Times poll out just a couple of days ago. How does Santorum, and this goes to Alexis's point, how does Santorum convince swing voters and independents that he's more electable, especially given his conservative stance on the social issues that may alienate moderates?
Simple, two ways. You win the Catholic vote and you win Ohio. If you do that, you show Mitt Romney's Midwestern weakness. President Obama is starting to focus on Rick Santorum for these two reasons. He knows that if he wants to win re-election in the White House, he has to win Ohio and he has to win a majority of the Catholic vote. And right now, Rick Santorum is resonating with his sort of Main Street conservative message throughout the Midwest, and Catholics are listening.
You know, Alexis, you did want to bring up the issue of social issues, and it's a good one. Santorum, you know, he sometimes utters controversial remarks. His views on women in the workplace and the military, they've been condemned as sexist. His comments on homosexuality still haunt him on the campaign trail. There was, of course, the black people remark, which he denies. Yeah. And then yesterday, his statement about President Obama's, quote, phony theology. I mean, look, he ends up spending a lot of time, Santorum does, backtracking, denying, or explaining. So do Democrats view him as a loose cannon, and would they welcome his candidacy as a result of that?
Oh, of course. I mean, look, when you look at the numbers of who the president beats versus Romney versus Santorum, I mean, he's overwhelmingly beating Santorum and Gingrich and Paul by huge margins, even though he's also beating Romney as well. I mean, I think the latest of what Santorum said, and I take personal offense as this is someone who's 8 months pregnant, is that prenatal testing is all of a sudden a bad investment by the government. And so I think that Catholics are obviously going to be a huge vote within the GOP primary, but independent women are really going to define a lot of where the general election is going to turn. And so I think the fact that he's alienating women is going to be a huge issue for him, and it just reveals that he's actually very undisciplined.
Well, you look beautiful for 8 months pregnant, and we wish you and your baby the best of luck. Alexis McGill Johnson, thanks so much for being with us. Ford O'Connell, great to see you as always. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg.
All right.
And Ford looks great, too.
Yeah, but he's not pregnant.
No, he's not. Good point.